Now, Eastern Cape Premier Oscar Mabuyane will deliver the State of the Province address at the Christian Centre in East London. The Eastern Cape Legislature moved the venue to accommodate guests, as over 1,700 people are expected to attend this year's SOPA, compared to over 400 that can be accommodated at the Raymond Mhlaba Chambers, where it's usually held. A budget of 1.5 million rand has been set aside for this particular event. For more on today's SOPA, let's cross live to our SABC News reporter, Abongile Jantjies. Abongile, everybody looking at the rands and cents at the moment and talking about 1.5 million rand for an announcement on SOPA. How are people feeling about that, by the way?
Well, Leanne, surely we'll know about that when we get to the venue, but now we're at the University of Water here in East London, where a professor from the university who deals with economical stuff will tell us more on what Mabuyane and how the sixth administration of the Eastern Cape government has panned out. Without further ado, let's bring in Professor Nashia Simatele. Ma'am, thanks a lot for your time. This is the last State of the Province address for the sixth administration. How has the province done in terms of the economy?
Generally, I think there has been an improvement, but again, it's quite difficult to actually assess given the fact that we've had to deal with a pandemic in between, which has had lasting effects on the economy. However, I think we have continued to see some growth in the OEMs in the province. We have also seen growth in services and the financial sector. And maybe it might not be a sector, but I think it's also very important to note that we've had an increase in matriculation rates from 75% in 2019 to 81.2 or thereabouts in 2023. So there have been some improvements.
And speaking of improvements, but there are yet many people of the province who are still subjected to abject poverty. Go to the OR Tambo district. Development there is quite stagnant. You could speak about roads, you speak about job opportunities, you speak about unemployment that is also stagnant, you speak about people just trying to make ends meet. How must the Premier in his last State of the Province address that? How would it make you comfortable?
I think it would make me comfortable if he were to first recognize where the limitations are. I think sometimes it's easy to sort of look at what has not happened and not look at what is happening. I think that people need to see that the administration can see the challenges that people are facing, that they acknowledge the poverty levels and talk about what is being done to try and address the poverty. So if I can, for instance, talk about the importance of investment in this province, some of the focus areas for the province are high-skilled sectors, and I'm sure you might know that the number of people in this province who are skilled are very few. For instance, if you talk about people who are over 25, less than 15% of them actually have jobs that can feed them. Some of them that are working but are poor. So it's very important, I think, to address the sectors that actually take unskilled and semi-skilled, workers, rather than just focusing on those high-value sectors. I think high-value sectors are important. Without growth, you cannot eliminate poverty. But at the same time, for this particular province, that is one of the poorest in the country, I think it's important to look at those areas that absorb workers that are semi-skilled or unskilled.
What advice would you give to him? Since 2019 up until now, he has been the Premier of the province, and he has been delivering this State of the Province's address. Large amounts of money. This year's SOPA will cost around 1.5 million rand. And what advice would you give to him going forward with the plans that he has for this province?
I mean, I think I'll kind of almost repeat myself in the sense that, for me, I think the critical issue is to address the poverty. and to address those areas that can create the unemployment, that can create employment. You talked about people in the rural areas being poor. You talked about the bad roads. I think, like I said earlier on, he needs to emphasize those things because every year, as you have said, he talks about the investment that's going into the road infrastructure. At the moment, we know there's a lot that's going into the infrastructure on the N2. We know that there is work that is happening on rural roads. We want to know what impact is that going to have on the economies. Is that going to increase access to markets for the small farmers that are in the rural areas? Those are the things that we want to hear from the SOPA.
Prof, thanks a lot for your time. Well, there you have it, and from the Prof, advising the Premier on the things that he should touch on. Well, he starts his speech at 11 o'clock this morning, and a number of people have been invited to this last one for the 6th administration, and we shall bring you more as the day unfolds.
All right. Thanks very much, Abongile. We'll be watching 11 o'clock. That's when the State of the Province address happens there in the Eastern Cape.